here today to help everyone understand that a lot of the highlights I just shared and so many of the services that Vernon County offers help boost mental health for residents in our community. Whether we're providing free car seats to those who can't afford them so that their children have a safe way to ride in a vehicle, whether we're recognizing a need in our county that's missing around domestic violence, whether we're encouraging each other to learn about something new so we can better support the entities and organizations in our county. All of that is really us coming together to look out for ourselves, look out for each other and for our community. And you're all part of that. So I just want to say thanks for all you do. Are there any questions?
Just a comment. That was an excellent report. And I just wanted to thank you for representing Vernon County and this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Amy.
I have a question.
Ollie?
What's the status of that Ho-Chunk grant to communities or towns and cities and villages? How many applicants did you receive, and et cetera?
Yes. So thank you, Oli. So as you know, we earmarked $115,000 in Ho-Chunk funding to offer the Community Development Grant Program. So municipalities throughout the county were eligible to apply. We did end up receiving 18 applications, totaling almost $146,000 in grant funding. So the grant requests exceed what we're able to award. Right now, the Economic Development Committee did form a subcommittee, which is the review committee of these applications. It includes Gail Muller, Kay Stanek, myself, the grants assistant, Amanda Elliott, and then Christina Dahlhausen, who's our economic development coordinator. I developed a review process in which every application is being reviewed by at least 3 of us. There's some evaluation criteria, and we are getting together tomorrow to discuss the applications and identify the applicants that submitted the most compelling application and projects that would meet community development needs and boost economic growth and resiliency. So then after that process, we would bring our recommendation to the June 1st Economic Development Committee meeting for full approval. And then we would announce to everyone, all the municipalities, whether or not they received that award right after. So the June meeting, board meeting, I could share who was awarded. Any other questions? Thank you.
Do we take a 5-minute break?
Somebody agreed with it.
Guess we don't have to vote on that one, do we?
No, we don't, Lauren. That's okay, Lauren. You just go.
Sandy, over here.
Okay. Are there any petitions? Are there any ordinances? Memorials and remonstrances? And standing reports from special committees? Got Ben gonna talk about dams.
Hello, everybody. Ben Woyan, Vernon County Land and Water, going to give a brief, I was told, update on the dam decommissioning. So with an overview, Vernon County has 22 PL 566 dam structures, more than any other county in Wisconsin. 2 of those dam structures are breached, including Jersey Valley and Milsna Dam. Milsna, which was our original pilot dam in 1959, is also our pilot for decommissioning. We are using state funding to do that. There is a really big study, over $2 million, that feels like it started 20 years ago, but maybe it's only like 4 years ago. It was supposed to be done in 2 years. This $2+ million study in essence is telling us we have no other option but to decommission the dams. It does not meet the cost benefit analysis according to NRCS and the private firms that they've hired. So we're really left with very few choices except for keep the dams or decommission the dams. If we keep the dams, that will be completely at Vernon County's own expense. So the good news is we believed we had to pay 25% of the cost of decommissioning the dams. They've now put in for a variance, which means that the federal government will pay 100% of decommissioning the dams. I want to be clear, we're talking about the dams in the study. We're in the Coon Creek and the West Fork of the Kickapoo. Those are the 2 watersheds. So this does not involve Rung Hollow, Sidey Hollow, Duck Egg. Those are all in the Bad Axe watershed. So we are not talking about the dams in the Bad Axe watershed. So 100% funding to decommission and to cover the engineering expenses. Raise your hand if you think someday we'll get a better deal than that to decommission our dams. We will not. So I believe at least Mark Erickson and I, our philosophy is, when in doubt, pull it out. I wish there were other solutions, but we don't want to burden future Vernon County, which is what we would be doing. So our goal is to bring a list forward, hopefully by next month, of which dams we're intending to decommission. There are a few we think may be worth saving. That'll be a combination of hazard rating, current condition. There may be some special considerations. There is significant concern that pulling these dams out will make the floods worse. Yeah, it will, right? There was a reason these dams went in. We are frustrated with the federal government that since day one, we were saying, what are the other solutions? If we have to pull out these dams, what other things on the landscape can occur? Have you ever held your breath for the federal government, waiting for a solution? I think we've given up on that. We're looking locally, right, to our farmer-led groups, to the farmers, to the people on the land who can bring forward other solutions. Giant dams will probably not be the future solutions for Vernon County. Again, we hope in a month, hopefully we're ready in a month to have our recommendations and to run it by our federal partners and our state partners. We're just playing around with decommissioning Milsna right now. It's not going exactly as fast as we were hoping, and I'm not sure who's listening, but absolutely the DNR is to blame for it going so slow. Because we need to wait on them to approve it, and that's the current situation. I am available for questions, and we will also be presenting in a month.
Allison?
So, well, good job. It's been a long process. that's going to get continuing longer. But so decommissioning 100%. And then after that, are there other programs, or it's just kind of like, good luck to you?
Good luck to me, good luck to you, good luck to the community, but I would say I'm committed, my department's committed to continuing to find resources and solutions, things on the landscape that slow the water down as much as possible that aren't giant dams. So I'm committing to you that we're not giving up, but it is a little frustrating.
The government is offering nothing after decommissioning? Is that what I
Definitely
hear?
washing their hands of the situation.
Okay. But then FEMA would have to kick in and help. Okay.
Maybe. Brad?
Ben, I think it's important for everyone to note, especially for taxpayers that are here, that there's not a person on Land and Water that did not want to see Jersey Valley back in action, but the numbers were unfathomable to repair that. So I think it's really important that everybody knows there wasn't any of us that didn't fight for that as best we could. There's just not a viable, 10, 20, $30 million option to bring it back, that we're just not.
I did skip Jersey Valley, and I should mention. So that if there's one that we could theoretically not decommission, it is Jersey Valley. The good news about Jersey Valley is, so with this variance of 100%, they did agree to pay 100% of the flood reduction portion of Jersey Valley. And they have strongly implied, hey, once you have the part that reduces the flood, it's not a lot more to make it into a lake. I may bring back to you all, hey, let's find a couple, $2-3 million and fix Jersey Valley, which is an $18-19 million project. Maybe it is only $2 or $3 million to fix it only, but we do not know that. So right now it's 100% of the flood reduction part of Jersey Valley, 50% of whatever's there to make it into a lake. We don't know those numbers. That is not going to be an easy decision, but there is a slight chance this board would decide to fix Jersey Valley, and I was remiss for not mentioning that initially.
Ben, also explain what neighboring counties are doing or collaborating on this.
They're ripping those damn things out. They're not hesitating, right? They've got, and guess where their water goes? Here. So they're just, I think they're not flinching. I would be very surprised if La Crosse or Monroe County kept a single dam.
I have a comment about my grandfather came to Timber Coulee down by the ski jump in the 1800s from Norway, and he got flooded out every spring with logs and boulders coming after the snow melt. And in the late 1920s, he built a new house with the intention of getting out of the valley, and it worked. And he got up on the ridge. Since then, there have been 5 dams constructed or in the vicinity of the Snowflake ski jump, and there haven't been any flooding events. And in 18, when the dams went out in Monroe County and went all the way to Stoddard, basically, that was the debris field. The upper end of that valley that I'm talking about didn't experience any flooding events. So they've, like you said, they've served their purpose. They've saved people and lives and land. And I was always interested in these dams sprouted up from the federal government back in the late 1950s.
1959 was the first one put into Vernon County. 1985 was Duck Egg, the last one to go into Vernon County.
And there was like 13,000 across the nation, I think.
Between 12 and 13,000 in the nation, PL 566 dams.
And the only ones that failed here.
The only time 5 have failed in one rain event was right here.
Yeah. Well, do what you can. I hope we can. We've talked in the hypothetical about having Jersey Valley at half of its capacity. I don't know what it would cost to decommission that dam. It's huge, but good luck.
We don't have numbers on that. Thank you for the good luck. With the decommissioning money, Mark and I are bringing in at least $9 million. So $9 million. Earning that salary.
I'd just like to say that, thank you, Ben. That was very, very good. It was easy to understand. It's been better than some of our meetings that have been really hard to figure out where we're headed with us. And we still don't know everything, but as a person who lives below, half-mile below the Milsna Dam and was there through the breach of the dam, which we were scared to death. I've never heard water roaring that bad when the dam went out. It was, that was extreme. I think for myself and the people who live right below it, I don't think that we'll sleep we'll sleep better now knowing that that dam is not backed up full, because it was crazy bad when it came down through that valley. So we'll put up with we'll have to take what comes now, the floods, but they may not be anything like when the dam broke. So I think we're doing the right thing. I'll sleep better knowing that dam is gone. We still have another one above us there. That one's been rebuilt a few years ago. Hopefully it holds. So that's what I got to say about it. And I think you guys have done a great job to try to move this along, although it's been very slow.
Brief description. Does that mean you take the whole dam system out completely?
I do appreciate Tom Lucan's comments and some other folks were not necessarily happy with what they're suggesting. They want it cheap, right? So essentially a notch, you're stabilizing that notch with rock and you're trying to fan out as much of that fill material that you're required to fill out along the edges or keep it close, right? Because trucking and hauling is expensive. We would prefer a more natural look, a more natural design to it. There's been discussion of wetlands, which I think is valuable to push. We were very frustrated at the DNR. So we're working with Ayers and Associates, is the engineering firm who's come up with the plan to the design to decommission Milsna Dam. They had what's called willow bundles, willow fascines that were natural, and you can place those and they'd have some living growth and also slow down the water. And the DNR said, no, you can't do that because apparently the Department of Natural Resources doesn't want habitat for things, which would have been a more natural way to stabilize it. So they're saying no to that, making us use even more rock in order to stabilize it. So this whole how to stabilize the dams is a frustrating process. Milsna's the first one we're going through to do that.
I think the part that is been enlightening is going to climate change meetings in Monroe County, because whatever happens in Monroe floods to us, and I've attended quite a few. And they do have, Ben, what are they, meters or? Brandon, I guess.
There's some monitoring, like high water hazard warnings and stuff like that.
Correct. And so with that, it connects right into Brandon. So we do have a way to let people know that are downstream know that the water is getting high and you're going to want to move. You know, that technology wasn't available before. I also think our watersheds in our county are active. Coon Creek is the oldest in the county, and working with those watersheds and doing preventive measures to help hold that land is our best effort. And what our land and management is doing, working with those watershed groups, I think they've done a very good job. And that's being preventive and being, working on, I'm missing my word here. It's left my head. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And this isn't the end. This is just the beginning, and building resilience is one of the key strategies for, I think, this community moving forward.
Tom Lucan wanted to speak on dams a tad.
Thank you. I'll just talk loudly here. What is being proposed, I hope you understand.
Tom, we should have you at a microphone somewhere. Come up here. There's an empty seat right up here.
Excuse me. Yeah, what's being proposed is basically rock chutes, these big, deep notches. And the original reason to build those dams was to slow and slow the water. And now I'm afraid because they're taking the cheapest route out, is that these notches are just going to get rip-wrapped, and you're going to have more velocity going down and more pressure on the infrastructure downstream because they are taking the cheapest route they can take. And I understand we have to take advantage of the money, but there are possibilities to try to do some shallow retainments and to make some wetlands to get some ecologic services to slow that water down and to hold it a little better. Also, they're talking about revegetating all those sediments with cold season grasses, with non-native, not particularly deep-rooted plants. It's like if you do an NRCS contract on a stream bank, it's basically a pasture mix. So there would be some opportunities to push the edges here on native plantings, getting in those nutrient-rich silts and stuff that have been collected, getting some species that provide other ecologic services. But I do think it should keep in mind that with these basically channelizing, we're going to just have more velocity, more speed, more erosive pressure downstream. So taking the least, the most cost effective, the least expensive route is likely to end up with the county paying a little bit more money for upsizing culverts, replacing culverts with bridges, because you're going to have a lot more pressure downstream. And if we can push them to take some softer approaches, and maybe Ben's department's just got to go get money to do it. I don't know, but to treat it differently than a ditch, which is what these notches and riprap are going to do to you. So I just thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for those comments, Tom, and I will welcome input moving forward on how we can work with these federal programs and try to make things as stable but as natural as possible. I did even hear one anonymous citizen recommended wild rice behind each of these dams, so we can explore that as well.
I know in the past, the smaller dams really done what they needed to be done. Just control the water, slow it back for a few days, spread it over a period of time. That's great. That's what we need. But what about, you take Bloomingdale Village, or what do you call that? Are they now the whole thing in a floodway?
They're all in the breach route of the dams for sure.
And it affects property owners. Town of Webster has a lot of along the West Fork, like Tom was talking about. We have property owners out in flood fringe and floodway, and we have Amish and want to build onto some properties, and pretty soon zoning said, no, you can't do that. Now, will some of this change now? Will this direction change the zoning or make it a little more worse?
It costs money and takes time to change that zoning, but my understanding is, right, if the breach route no longer exists, that will change that line on a map, but I would probably defer to zoning to answer exactly how that's going to impact the line on the map, which directly impacts many people's lives.
That was my question. We've got so much property in Vernon County that's in the shadow. And by all the way from, like I mentioned, the ski jump all the way to Coon Valley, it's in the shadow. And there's thousands of acres in the shadow. But are they going to redo the maps, the flood maps, you said?
Yes, yeah. That would trigger a change, but it might take time and money to do that. And we're not exactly sure how that will be funded yet.
Yeah, we've discussed this at the Land and Water a few different times about things that the farmers in the area can do to help with at least the erosion part of things. And I've taken a few steps already in that direction to try to keep all of my land in the bottoms there, nothing in row crop anymore. Everything is in grass and hay and pasture. And I don't know how much it will help, but I think it will. The other thing is, if the DNR would like to come down to my place, I could show them some real builders down there. I have beavers there I have a new lake at my property and it is very strong. So I have the new dam at my place.
I think that's reality. We take these dams out and the beavers are gonna build them right back.
Yeah.
But they can't be regulated then. This was meant to be brief. We're hoping to bring more recommendations forward, hopefully by next month. But I'm still available for any questions if you'd like.
Thank you, Ben. I'd just like to give a shout out to all the watershed projects that are going on. They had a really good one down in Coon Valley. They celebrated conservation down there last weekend, and it was very well attended. They had all kinds of demonstrations. I honestly wasn't going to go, but I got roped into going, and I said, okay, I'll stop by for an hour. And I was there all afternoon and enjoyed every minute of it. So, you get an opportunity to support conservation. I encourage you to do that. We have the sheriff's office report. Roy?
We go. I brought my captain with. He'll be waving my arms or his arms if I run over on time. So, like to thank Supervisor David Egan for recommending this presentation on today's agenda. So thank you, and thank all you board supervisors, past and present, for your support of the sheriff's office. This afternoon at 2 p.m., we'll be holding our annual law enforcement memorial service in front of the sheriff's office. It's a good time to honor the fallen officers and just to give thanks to the officers that are currently serving. Deb Easterday will be singing along with Mike Christensen, her brother, Janet Moll. Frank will be there, but I don't think he'll be singing. But I know he'll be there to support us. So far this year, across the nation, 42 law enforcement officers have been killed. Tragically, 4 right here in Wisconsin. And last year at this time, we were at 0. In the last 5 years, 1,797 law enforcement officers have been killed across the nation. And the current total is 26,308 officers killed in the line of duty. And that statistic can change every 55 hours on an average. And today we'll also honor 3 of our own killed in the line of duty here in Vernon County. Just want to touch briefly on our Facebook page. The Sheriff's Office, we are very active on our Facebook page to get information out to you. We try to keep it as positive as we can, but if we ever were to have something bad happen where we need to count on the public immediately, that's where we're going to put that information out. So you as supervisors, I encourage you to visit that page if you haven't already. Consider sharing our posts, liking or commenting on that, because that helps keep that page going. So if we were to have, like I said, something bad, we know that information is going to get out very quickly. information travels fast these days, but you have to have a good page, a good active page. You can't post once a month and expect that information to get out there. So I do encourage you to visit the Vernon County Sheriff's Office Facebook page if you haven't already. And also, if you are not signed up for Nixle, make sure you see Emergency Director Larson before you leave. We'll activate the locks on the doors until that's done. Feel free to, if you have any concerns or questions of the Sheriff's Office, please call me at any time. I welcome your calls. I welcome your emails, your text messages, your visits. Supervisor Pedretti, he's going to be taking a tour of our correctional facility here in the near future, and I'd open that up to anyone here.
You get 30 days, what?
Yeah, well, we could have a little fun with a mugshot. What do you think about that? We got to get him out of here so he can go hoe the grapes this afternoon. Also, I'd like to recognize Supervisor Kay Stanek. I read about her in the newspaper. She was part of a group that provided a donation to the Hillsborough Police Department, and I believe it was called Lights for Bikes. Is that right? So, great job on that, Kay. I appreciate Amy's presentation on our grant. She should have had her picture up there because she did a lot of work on this too. She gave me way more credit than I deserve. And I'd also like to thank Chief Phil Welch of the Coon Valley Police Department. He actually found that grant and we all got to work on it. But I just, again, want to thank Amy. Amy also was very instrumental in our Next Generation 911 grant of $237,000. So thank you, Amy. The Aging and Disability Resource Center held its second annual senior fair, and we sent our community policing officer. He set up a booth, and it looked to be 3 to 4 times the attendance of last year. It looked very successful, so I look for that to continue. Happened to be the same day as the train derailment, so I had to leave. We weren't sure exactly where it was. It was very close to the Vernon County line. And just touching on the train derailment, we did bill Burlington Northern for just 5.5 hours of overtime, but wanted to make sure that that bill went out to them. Also, HR Director Lepke talked about going digital. We've been fully paperless on our investigation procedures since early 2019 and actually started experimenting prior to that. We love that process at the Sheriff's Office, and it's gone very well. You couldn't do that without a strong IT department, and I certainly want to thank them for their support. Chris here recently helped us out of a bind. We had a technical project where there was 5 different vendors involved, and you can imagine how frustrating that would be. Chris, he stayed on it and got that taken care of. So greatly appreciate our IT department. And lastly, I want to thank our county board chairman, Lauren, for allowing me this opportunity. We have a fundraiser for Deputy Eric Tullickson. He was wounded in the line of duty in June of 2021. He tried to come back to work, but just was not able. I'd like to thank Corporation Counsel, Human Resources, for working on the technicalities of getting him a disability, and I appreciate the calls from several county board supervisors. And Eric has given me permission to speak freely on his behalf, and he is very much appreciative of the support from the county. But our Vernon County Law Enforcement Association is holding a fundraiser, and those funds will benefit Eric, and I have them back at my table if you want to see me afterwards. And any questions? Thank you.
The finance,
I'd just like to say before Roy leaves that, I've been on the sheriff's committee for quite some time, and I've been going to the memorials most of the years since I've been on there, and it is a very nice thing that they're doing. And if anybody has the chance to take off this afternoon and go to it, I think it's well worth your time. We are having a lot of problems, and our cops are under a lot of pressure right now with the dangers out there. And I'd just like to thank Roy. He has really hit the ground running since he's taken office. And if you voted for him, you made the right choice. He's really doing a good job. So thank you, Roy.
and now we have a report from Bobby, our finance department.
Well, I am nowhere near as interesting as Roy and Ben. Last month at our county board meeting, I handed out a 62-page assessment report of our financial needs. Some of you may not have taken the time to read it. It was very extensive. So this is a high-level overview of the report. See if this works. There we go. So Connor and I had in February, briefly went out and had several working sessions with all of the departments and the staff that have anything to do with finances to get their wants, their needs, their issues, to come up with that assessment report. So the results of the assessment ended up showing that we have a system that is several decades old. The system, when it was purchased, was intended to be expanded. However, that expansion of that system never happened. We have several major issues, one being that we never implemented any additional modules or upgrades to it. As a result, we ended up with numerous siloed systems. Currently, between licenses and software in the county, we have over 1,500 licenses and software types that we do pay for. That's quite a lot. We have a lack of automated processes. We spend a lot of time on manual processes, paper pushing. We have a huge lack in reporting. We can't give reporting the way that we need to. We have specific reporting needs in every department. We have specific reporting needs that our home committees would like to have us give. We can't do that with what we have. Over the years, we've also grown our chart of accounts. Our chart of accounts is the numbers that you see in the budget book. They're very extensive. They're very detailed, and we have gotten to the point now where we're running out of numbers. But with that, we also have inconsistency. We're not able to track projects the way we should. We're not able to track grants the way we should, contracts, any kind of funding sources. It's very hard and limited to what we can actually track. There was also a huge lack of training and tools given to the departments. When I came here in June of last year, it's been very interesting. We started doing department trainings in December. And we started briefly with an overview of government finance. Not a lot of staff had the behind the scenes of why we need this. What does it mean? What does that impact have to do with me? So it was very insightful to see, and a lot of questions came about it from the departments and those finance users, and it was very great to have that kind of interaction with the departments, to broaden their aspect and their knowledge of why finance is important and why it touches so many different things. Excuse me. This is just a brief snapshot of what our system looks like. This is very, very old. It was originally created by IBM, and back in the day, it was the top end. But now we're to the point where we have other things that are web-based that can do so much more for us. This next slide is the current state of what we have. This is just a snapshot of a few systems that we have in the county. This is not all the licensing, the software, the hardware, everything that goes into it. We have well over 50, probably 100 different spreadsheets and systems that we use to report. Everything is very manual. To come together, we have to look at something that's interconnected, integrated, interfaced, to help alleviate a lot of the staff time that we do have. We could spend numerous hours doing manual processes, or we could free up staff time to offer better services and programs to the county residents. The causes for our current state, and some of you have heard this quite a bit, we need centralization. We need to be able to access information from other departments that we touch basis with. We also need to make sure that we are configuring the system to the best ability that we have in our organization, that we can get to a point where we can keep improving upon that. We also need to have a minimum, some kind of integration or at least an interface, so we can import and export files of data instead of having to manually put them into spreadsheets, send it on. There's not a lot of double checks within our departments on those spreadsheets because a lot of us are very limited on how big our department is. Some of us are a department of one. So there is a lack of staff that we can't double check everything. Our processes, we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent with our processes, our policies, our procedures, which is why we have several working sessions coming up for our purchasing and procurement policy that you are all invited to. It has to be for the better of the organization, not just one department in particular. We have to think of the big picture. Departments have to be able to run their own reports. So as of December, every single department has the ability to run their own reports in New Vision. There will be some more refresher trainings coming up. It's been asked for from departments. Historically, up until December, there was maybe 5 departments, 6 departments that had access to the system to run reports. So they were manually tracking everything. And with that, it's very hard to also pull record requests for any kind of public record information. The next slide. Ooh, there we go. Too far. So this is our primary goal. We have to be connected. An enterprise resource system is also what is called a very robust system. It's not just finance, it's contracts, it's projects, it's assets, insurance, grants, HR, payroll, budgetary information, inventory. It also has workflows, so we can do work orders if we need to. We can track and maintain our fleet operations. There's just so much out there that we need to be able to access and do that we just can't. But the big key point of this is it's connected. We have to be able to make sure we have that connection. In the back of that 62-page report was a phased out recommendation plan that Connor and I came up with. Our phase 1 plan. I think I died, Chris. Thank you. Our phase 1 plan is our foundation. It's going to be a 12 to 24 month phase. With that phase, it's redoing our chart of accounts. We have to be able to get to a point where we have easier reporting. We have to look at our payroll, HR, timekeeping, functionality. HR spends a lot of time on manual processes, paper, in-person orientation. We can take and make that easier. We can make it online. Candidates, new hires can have all of their orientation and stuff done well before they start. We can do accounts receivable. That is our creating customer invoices. We don't have the ability to do that. So when we implemented the contract for our state debt collection, we need invoices from departments. Departments create those invoices through Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, receipt, invoice, paper. So it's very hard to track and see what we have out there that's owed to us. We're also looking at implementing more training. We have to be able to get our staff up to the level where they need to be able to answer committees as they're sitting there. So we can have that kind of reporting and access to those within our home committee meetings. We can do quick sheets, cheat sheets, but the overall goal is if we don't fix our foundation, we're going to do all of this work and spend money that is resident taxpayer money, and we're not going to get the full benefit out of it. We have to fix our foundation. The second phase of the plan is building off that foundation. So that is budgeting, implementing budgets. Departments should be able to access the system, input their budgetary numbers, their requests, their justifications, the whys, where they need to go, what's the reason behind certain purchases. We also need to be able to do project tracking and accounting. If we can monitor our projects and grants through project modules, it'll be so much easier because then we'll know exactly what we have out there that's left over for grants or project funds that we can reallocate to something else, or if we have to pay the grant back, we can do that. It also gives us the ability to look at capital asset implementation and policies. In the Finance Committee last month, we did look at a draft of a capital improvement policy as well as prioritization ranking criteria. That is something that this board as a whole is going to have to look at when we get to the point of priority-based budgeting. That's a baby step, and it's one of a key measures in getting to a point where we're doing peer ranking among the departments, getting public input, doing ranking through the board. What is important to the county overall, not just what's important to finance or emergency management, highway, land and water, what's important overall. The final phase, phase 3, continues on that expansion of our foundation in phase 2. It's loan and lease tracking, contract management, form modification, custom reporting. We want to be able to have land and water take their water and conservation logo and put that on their documents and own them. We want to be able to make sure that we have those types of presences in the county. Being able to track our contracts is going to be huge. Extension times, if there is an extension, reminders, automatically, it's just a matter of setup. But the overall goal in all of this is it's connected. We have to be connected as a county. We have to have our departments connected. It'll offer that much more reporting criteria, just overall information flow between everybody. So that is the internal snapshot of what we're looking at. There is a feature as well with many integrated systems where we're allowed to have open book for our residents. There's a Treasury Act that we have, a Treasury Transparency Act that we have to eventually start looking at, and that is the public will be able to look at all of our accounts, our transactions through an online dashboard on our website. To do that, we still have to fix everything. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard for any kind of resident to look at any of that information and know what's going on in the county. So in a snapshot, this is what we're going to be sending an RFP out for very soon. We are also looking at improving a lot of policies. There'll be policy rollouts, but overall, what we need is something that can be integrated within our software. The goal is to use our ARPA funds. We do have those through 2026, but we do have to start planning for those. But with this is also going to have multiple department input on what system we get when we do the vendor demonstrations. So departments will be able to voice what they need, be able to say what they want, what they like, what won't work for them, so we can compromise. We have to have some give and take here and there, but overall, the goal is to be connected. And that's all I have if anyone has any questions. Rod?
I think don't forget to reiterate, this is not necessarily just an improvement that Bobby's suggesting. Our current platform, which is on the AS400, there's no chance to kick it down the road because it will no longer be supported. So this is kind of a must jump situation. And again, thank Bobby for all her hard work. It was really painful reading that 50-page document showing all of our deficiencies, but the good news is the benefits from this should reap us hopefully hundreds of thousands of dollars in efficiencies over time. So thanks for all your hard work, Bobby.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and with that too, we do have what we have now. It's not even cloud-based. It's on-site hardware. We take a cassette tape, we take it out, put a new one in. It is the actual cassette tapes that we back our system up on. So there is no fail-safe anywhere online. It is a cassette tape. So we've gone through quite a few of those cassette hard drives.
With all these licenses and stuff that we have now, you said like 1,500 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and we're paying for all of them. How many of them will we still have when are we going to be losing a lot of expenses and gaining a big expense, or is it all?
It will balance out as we peel off the siloed systems and get everything integrated. Those maintenance costs and those maintenance agreements that we pay for and support every year will transition to the system that we choose.
Bobby, on this, looking at that sheet, what year is that? Like 1984?
That is from, I think it was 82, but we have had AS400 or New Vision AS400 for over 3 decades.
Okay, so personally, who has anything in technology or a system that is that old? And I want you to think about that because it was all dial phones back then. So that is what they're working with, and I find it to be rather embarrassing. Thank you.
Allison?
Yeah, I will say it reminded me a little bit of like my high school computer programming class, the DOS-based programming. But I think I have to appreciate the detail that you've provided. It's sometimes hard to uncover deficiencies and then be the spokesperson behind it. So that takes a lot of work. And I think it's helping me, I don't know everybody, but get a better understanding of the magnitude of the problem, because we've approached this kind of with I call it like the Band-Aid approach. Like you run around, like put Band-Aids on all the bleeding, and then it's like, okay, we stopped bleeding, but nothing's actually been fixed. So here we are, and it's time to fix it. And I really appreciate your work. And it'll be hard. Change is hard, and people get really attached to how they do things. So I think that's where we have to be supportive of our committees the further it goes down.
Yeah, and this is definitely an internal change. It's going to be a huge internal change for a lot of staff that have been here for quite a while, that are used to the way it's always been done. There's going to be a lot of discussion on changing processes internally. Why do we have to do it this way? It works the way it is. Why do we have to change it? So there's going to be a lot of discussion amongst departments. So it really is a team effort.
I have a question. Okay, so Bobby, on page 4, the first phase 1 says 12 to 24 months. Okay, so that's 2 years out. So does phase 2, is that integrated into that time frame, or is that after phase 1 is done, then we go to phase 2 and phase 3? So are we actually looking at 4 years out while this is all happening? Or do they kind of happen integrated during all of this?
So as we build the foundation, those main foundation pieces tie into the budgetary piece, the project and grant tracking, capital asset. It ties all together. So we have to set everything up in the main foundation first.
Yeah.
To the point where those other outlying modules will talk to each other and information will flow smoothly. It's getting our processes in a way that, as we set up that foundation, that we're taking into consideration the little things that may cause a bigger hiccup later on down the road. So it's going to be a lot of discussion and analyzation and getting the vendor on board to make sure that we're doing best practices and that we're not doing something that we shouldn't be. But overall, yes, phase one should be 12 to 24 months. It could be less than 24 months. It could be a few extra months depending on how discussions are going, workloads, day-to-day activities, any emergency situations that come up. But more than likely, as we get to the end of phase one or the majority of it through, we'll be able to start looking at parts of phase two to start making sure that those connections are solidified.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the work on this. This is amazing.
But to do it right, we cannot rush it. We have to do it right because this will be something that we can use going forward for many, many years, as long as we set it up correctly. Mm-hmm. But that's what takes the time is the configuration and making sure that it's going to work for what we need. If we rush it, there's no point in going through this process any further.
No, I don't want you rushing it. I just wanted to understand it.
I just wanted to make that apparent that if we want to rush it, we might as well stay with what we have.
Do you have that system identified yet?
There are some top systems that are in mind, but we do want to be fair and make sure that all departments have a say. So we are going to send out that RFP to do vendor demonstrations. We'll be from there. There are key departments and finance staff in the departments that have expressed interest in scoring those demonstrations to be able to ask questions and make sure that it will accommodate what they need.
So how soon do you think you'll be ready to bring it to us to say, hey, write a big check and we can do this?
My strong hopeful goal would be early this fall, late summer. By the time we schedule the demonstrations and get everybody scored and looked at and all that kind of stuff.
Well, thank you, Bobby, and the department heads. We all know what's going on in our departments and the committees we're on, but it's good to have other people come up here and let us know what's going on countywide. Thank you. Any other unfinished business? Next meeting date?
The 20th if you want to stick with the 30th.
20th of June, work for everybody?
I asked to be excused for the 20th of June. I won't be in the area.
Okay.
I'm good with it.
Good with her being excused or?
Get more elbow room. Dave, get more elbow room.
Anybody have any requests for the next agenda?
As a matter of fact, we broached the topic today, and I'd like to have the clerk look into the county policies, maybe reach out to zoning and find out if county government has any, insert any, assert any, anything to do with billboards. I don't think it's county, I think it's local governments that control billboards placement.
Find out. Amy?
Yeah, I just have two. One, I think it'd be great to bring Ben back next month, even if his update is there is no update yet. I think the community would like to be kept in the loop on something that's a pretty hot topic in this county. And then my second suggested agenda item for next month would be to invite Crystal Knoll up, who oversees our Veterans Department. Her and I at our monthly connect, she shared some highlights from that department that were very much aha moments for me, very impactful stories that I would love you all to hear. So I would love to include Crystal.
Ben, tell me if I'm ahead of myself, but I was thinking we'd have zoning if these flood shadows are going to change for people and all these things, what you indicated. Maybe they would know something about that. I'd like that information too, because it's quite concerning. Yeah, if he isn't, he can wait another month, but we'd sure like to know if it helps.
We also have the Historical Society will be presenting something next meeting. Rod, Dave? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.